Evan Knappen.
And I'm Teddy Knappen.
And welcome to Gun Lawyer. So we are right on the breaking news as we record the show, and that is the spectacular win on the National Firearms Act. It is the outcome of the big, beautiful bill removing the taxes on silencers, short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, and AOWs that translated into the big, beautiful lawsuit, of which there were actually two lawsuits, which essentially put forward that if there is no tax, there can be no law, because the NFA is based on tax law as the jurisdictional basis for the federal government, and if there's no tax, then you can't have a tax law. And hence the silliness, which is really just kind of funny, is the tax stamp says zero. So how you get a tax stamp that says zero when there's no tax, leave it to the government to create a tax stamp of zero. But now that's changed. This is the most exciting change in, 96 years to a challenge to the NFA. And it has very exciting ramifications, and we'll talk about how those specifically relate to Jersey in a moment. But there's lots of questions and lots of speculation and issues surrounding what this decision means. So what happened was we had two lawsuits that were brought. One is the Silencer Shop Foundation versus ATF. There were other plaintiffs as well. The parties in the SSF lawsuit included B&T USA, Firearm Regulatory Accountability Coalition, the Gun Owners Foundation, Gun Owners of America, Palmetto State Armory, Silencer Co. Weapons Research, Silencer Shop Foundation, the state of Alaska, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Montana, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wyoming, and several individuals. Then there is Jensen versus ATF. And Jensen, the parties were the Texas State Rifle Association, which is NRA's Texas affiliate, Citizens Committee for Right to Keep and Bear Arms, and the FPC Action Foundation, Hot Shots Custom, and several individuals. The court in these cases applied an injunction to the parties, quote, where applicable, the parties, agencies, political subdivisions, members, and customers, both current and future. This means that the protections of the injunction generally flow downstream in that change of commerce. And by the way, I am gleaning this information from the NRA ILA in their article, What Does the Texas NFA Decision Mean to You? And they've done a good job of essentially the preliminary breakdown here. NRA partnered with the TSRA to provide joint membership for those that are interested, okay? So, what got enjoined? What statutes themselves got enjoined? Well, it was the NFA's registration and approval requirements. Those were what were enjoined, and they were enjoined as to silencers, short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns for covered parties. The injunction also includes AOWs, any other weapons, for the SSF parties only, okay? So as far as AOWs are concerned, only parties, people that are parties to the SSF, which is going to mean members essentially of GOA and such, and the companies that joined in it, and possibly as well, including those states. Certain marking requirements are enjoined with respect to the Jensen case, while the effect of this portion of the injunction is going to take clarification from the government. So we're going to have to wait and see on that. The further impact is that, which is perhaps more important than the statutes that are covered are those that are not covered, okay? So under Title 18, it makes it unlawful for a licensed importer, licensed manufacturer, licensed dealer, licensed collector to sell or deliver to any person any short barrel shotgun, short barrel rifle, except as specifically authorized by the Attorney General, consistent with public safety and necessity. Now, in the past, that compliance was considered authorized, or was considered authorization when there was an NFA compliance done itself, you see. So without further action by the government, compliance with the former NFA procedures will likely still be required before transferring short barrel shotgun or short barrel rifle. Then it goes on to explain that the analogous requirement for transportation of short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, was also not enjoined. So authorization for interstate travel is still required. That's where you have to get permission from ATF before you move with any of those firearms. However, ATF has proposed streamlining this process by currently pending regulations. And those are the regulations that we've discussed in the past that are looking to change by changing it in the CFR, which is the Code of Federal Regulations. The injunction also does not apply to existing SOTs, which is the special occupational tax for dealers in NFA firearms. Now, it's technically possible for non-SOT dealers to receive firearms from a distributor or manufacturer on an ATF Form 4. ATF will need to clarify if an SOT is required for dealers who engage in the business of dealing in these firearms. So, there are still to be considered state laws, and that's going to be an individual basis of each state's laws about how they individually view these NFA items. And we're going to talk about New Jersey specifically in a moment. NRA says, moving forward, the Jensen case is one of three supported by NRA in the litigation partners with American Suppressor Association, the FPC, which is Firearm Policy Coalition, and Second Amendment Foundation. Those cases, by the way, are Brown versus ATF and Roberts versus ATF. And Judge Clark in Missouri heard motion for summary judgment in Brown, and they remain committed to expanding the injunction secured in Jensen in those other cases. As NRA says, taking action under an injunction is not without risk. An injunction can be dissolved or stayed with very little notice. Please check regularly back for updates. While much remains uncertain with the injunction, the monumental nature of this cannot be overstated. This is the biggest win against the unconstitutional NFA in its 92-year history. And it serves as a great example that the fight for our rights is never over. So, if we want to see some practical applications as to what's going on when it comes to suppressors, it's really fascinating. Now, of course, suppressors, silencers are banned in Jersey by state law. We are currently looking at challenges to Jersey's state suppressor ban, constitutional challenges to that, but for now, unfortunately, Jersey citizens cannot take advantage of the changes if they are residents of New Jersey because of the state law prohibition that Jersey still maintains. However, if you live in a free state, if you live in a state that is covered by this injunction, specifically through Silencer Shop, you can look at Silencer Shop's website, which is very good, and it lays out the states that are good to go. And if you live in a good to go state that is now covered by this injunction, for example, if you live in New Hampshire, if you live in Alabama, there's the whole list of states that respect and understand this. If you live in any of those states, you can now order your suppressor and pick it up from the dealer locally. And when you go to the dealer to pick it up, there's no Form 4. There's no federal registration that needs approval anymore. There is no fingerprinting. There's no notice given to local police of your acquisition. All that's gone. All that gets done is a 4473, the same form you fill out for the federal government to buy a gun, and a NICS check gets done, an instant check. So what it means is you'll be able to go to your dealer, do the 44 just like your 4473, just like you're buying a gun. The NICS check gets done, the instant check. You get your approval, you walk out the door with your suppressor that easily. That is great, and it's paving the way to finally get a full legal change to suppressors to make that, of course, eventually the nationwide standard. But for now, there is a boom, an explosion of silencer purchases. This will make it even easier, more convenient, more private, less of a hassle than ever before. This is extremely exciting.
There's something very important to this fact. Going back to and this is how I'm kind of extrapolating it to the assault firearm cases, one of the biggest things that is winning, that helped us fight, that won that fight, was the idea of common use, where the AR-15 and all forms of their quote-unquote assault firearms are so popular that it was so much common use that it fell under the grounds of the Second Amendment.
Right. This is going to explode even more common use, even though there's millions of suppressors already, but it will absolutely aid to that. Now, interestingly, in New Jersey, sawed-off shotguns are a problem. Same with rifles, they're a problem. However, any other weapon, there are any other weapons, what we call AOWs, that are technically Jersey legal, and this will change the game in New Jersey on AOW. But we still need more clarification on how the feds are going to work it on AOWs. We don't have that right now. But let me explain. AOWs, let me show you some common examples of AOWs. For example, pistol grip only shotguns. Now, don't confuse AOW, which is any other weapon, as an other. So some of you may have shockwaves in Jersey, which are others. Shockwaves are not AOWs, okay? They're shockwaves, they're others. Others are different. But a pistol grip only shotgun is a short, non-NFA style scatter gun, right? But is reduced in overall length under 26 inches. Now, as you know, or should know, with a shockwave, it's not under the 26 inches. If it's under 26 inches with only a grip, such as a custom compact 12 gauge, then we're looking at that. Now, how those apply to Jersey law become model specific. Of course, you still can't have sawed-off shotgun, but state police have approved for others. Vertical foregrip pistols are also considered AOWs. So a standard semi-automatic handgun or a pistol format firearm equipped with a vertical front hand grip is considered an AOW. And AOWs have coverage under this, but how that's going to apply now so that you don't have to do the NFA and can simply operate under the injunction, we're going to fill you in with more information as we get it. Smooth bore handguns, okay? Those are AOWs. Classic examples of that, such as the H&R Handy gun or the Ithaca auto and burglar gun. So those custom smooth bores, it may very well now open up that category. Certain smooth bore pistols can, depending on their configuration, be Jersey legal still. And if they're, even though they're AOWs, if the injunction has its due effect, that'll be easier in New Jersey on those. Also coming under AOWs are disguised or improvised firearms, concealable multi-projectile or single-shot devices disguised as everyday items like cane guns, pen guns, flashlights, or wallet guns. And, of course, those are all banned under New Jersey state law as covert firearms. So even though you may seek relief federally in terms of the AOWs under the NFA, you're not going to be able to acquire those because Jersey has a specific ban on those in state law. Then there's combination guns, certain compact over and under firearms with rifle and shotgun barrels between 12 and 18 inches long, intended for single shots without reloading. These two can fall under categories of AOWs, specific models with specific determinations, and how this victory will apply. We're still going to have to iron out the details since this is so fresh and so new, but there is going to be some relief that Jerseyans will be able to take advantage of. And in the long run, this is great for everybody as we keep the fight going on battling the NFA. It's a great victory, and it is definitely going to shake things up. And it has, though, some things to keep in mind that really require us to change this law permanently for forever. And what I'm talking about is how we got to this point is something that still has a vulnerability to be changed back. And let me explain why. The reason for the injunction is because there is no tax. And because there's no tax, then the legal logic opinion is with no tax, then a law based premised on the power of taxation can't exist anymore or have its effect. This was used as a vehicle in the 30s for the National Firearms Act. That's what it was jurisdictioned upon. That's what has been now eviscerated by the big, beautiful bill removing the tax on these four categories, all right? The tax on machine guns still exists. We'll get to that in a moment. So that's what was the victory, but that was passed legislatively by what? By way of a reconciliation bill. A reconciliation bill that deals with taxation and finance. Those bills can pass Congress with simple majorities. That is how the Republicans got it through. And by removing the tax on the NFA items with a simple majorities, they did not face the challenge of a filibuster because they couldn't filibuster, they being the communists. Oh, I'm sorry, the Democrats. Well, it's the same thing. They couldn't stop.
Democrats, socialists.
Right, communists, authoritarian nutbags could not stop this because of the filibuster being inapplicable to a reconciliation bill. That's how we got to this point. But keep in mind, should the commies take power again, and you can substitute Democrats, socialists, whatever, for commies, they're interchangeable anyway. When and if that happens, then it would be at the moment within their power to reinstitute in a reconciliation bill that they do, assuming they have power through the Congress and the executive who would sign such a thing. And keep in mind, if the Democrat, socialist, communists control both houses, and even with a Republican president, but a reconciliation bill that's chock full of other things financially needed, they might even force the hand of an otherwise friendly executive, President Trump, to still sign a reconciliation bill that does what? Re-implements tax. And they may make the tax not $200, but maybe $200,000 or $5,000. Or even if they just make it $200 again, or even $1 again. Guess what? Now we're back to a jurisdictional argument that the NFA is now applicable again. So it matters who you vote for. Elections matter. They matter. They make a difference.
On the off chance, just on the extreme end, let's say, the pendulum swings, the socialists take over and run it. Could they do what the ATF was doing prior with, when going after people with like the forced reset trigger?
We don't know. We don't know. They could do it. They could, depending on what. Are they going to go and then try to round up suppressors that may have been acquired when there was no tax, if the law is suddenly back? Or does it make it so that there's an ex post facto argument to argue that it was legal at the time, but now any of these new ones need tax stamps, but old ones don't, and then they're going to be kind of like the way they ran magazines. It was before a certain period of time, and will they then be grandfathered or not? Because NFA didn't grandfather, it had a new period of registration. But there is no new period ability unless the secretary has the power to have a new registration period. So I would assume if they do it, the secretary would say, okay, there's now an open registration period of ones you previously purchased, where you're going to have to register and pay the tax. Remember that. So this all can happen in the future. But look, it doesn't mean our behavior has to be based upon, especially you live in a free state, worrying about what communists might do in the future. Okay, but keep in mind, it still could happen. This is a great victory, but we need to take it further. And this will empower us to take it further because it can help on the Second Amendment argument to knock these laws out. It can assist in that greatly. It can assist in legislative change. Once it's done and out there and people are purchasing them in this way, it makes it easier to pass federal laws, to just make it the law and not just rely on the judicial action. So there's also potential future consequences that can run for us, not just against us. Regardless, it's a great victory, but keep in mind these potential dangers that lurk. And unfortunately, if you live in New Jersey, there isn't much here for you to take advantage of at the moment. But in the big picture, it's working to protect our rights.
Just a side note, I heard this term where just because you put a word in front of the other word, it doesn't always change the definition. So if I say Democrat murderer, that doesn't change the definition of murderer. So for them trying to rebrand the socialists, like, no, we're not like that. We're Democrat socialists, not to every other socialist government that has failed. No, we're different. We just want to abolish prisons and abolish police.
Well, I love when they talk about how communism, look, communism just wasn't done right. It just hasn't been done right. Well, I guess they'll probably make the same argument for Nazism. Oh, Nazism just hasn't been done right yet. Okay, so that's all. Just hasn't been done right. I mean, no, we've experienced and seen what history has to say about these stupid ideas of socialism and communism and Nazism. We've seen it, and it don't fly. As a matter of fact, look at what's going on in Central America right now with the enormous economic change when they've been getting rid of their socialist systems.
It's amazing what happens when you defund USAID.
Yeah, isn't that amazing how these countries are suddenly doing great? I mean, you think about USAID. We were actually promoting socialism to our Central and Central American neighbors. It's nuts. It's nuts that we would be doing this. And not to mention that the Democrat Party suddenly, coincidentally, is now $2 million in debt after USAID was folded up and shuttered.
The one I always laugh at is, I think it was it's like something crazy, like $7 million to LGBTQAI plus in Serbia, which I guess worked because they elected a lesbian, but it's so, oh my God. And then it was like Sesame Street in Afghanistan, which, okay.
Right, and promoting DEI everywhere, which just is hardly a national interest or for our national security or what America's founding principles are all about. But let me tell you about our friends at WeShoot. WeShoot this week is offering OA Defense 2311 Pro Elite, and that is a modern focused platform that blends the familiar 1911 style characteristics with contemporary design, premium construction, and competition-inspired features. There's also the Special Ops Tactical STX-15. Now, that's an AR platform rifle with unmistakable SOT attitude, combining distinctive styling with purpose-built modern sporting rifle platform. Then there's the Mossberg 990 Aftershock. Mossberg takes that unmistakable aftershock concept into semi-auto territory, thereby creating a bold new addition to its defensive lineup. We Shoot has the cutting-edge guns. They're there for you. Make sure you check out We Shoot, which is an indoor range and phenomenal pro shop with great training located in Lakewood, New Jersey. Very easily accessible off the Parkway. They are a fantastic resource. It's where Teddy and I both shoot. It's where we got our training. It's where we got our certifications. And if you go on the website, you can check out We Shoot. They have fantastic photos and just great photography. And you can check out the latest from the father-daughter shoot and other great events that they're running. And what is their many faces of 2A, where, 2A is for everybody. And they are pushing as well some really cool stuff, including being part of their photo shoots. And you can reach out to social media at weshootusa.com for that, for any of the photo shoots that you do. This is a great place. They love their customers, and their customers love them. Go to weshootusa.com and check out We Shoot right there in Lakewood. It's a phenomenal resource, and you'll be glad that you did. Hey, let me also shamelessly promote my book, which is New Jersey Gun Law, the Bible of Jersey Gun Law, over 500 pages, 120 topics, all question and answer. It'll help you from becoming a go-foo. You want to avoid that at all costs in New Jersey, and that are there to oppress our rights and turn law-abiding gun owners into criminals. Beware, protect yourself. Get a copy of New Jersey Gun Law. Go to evannappen.com today, evannappen.com, and you'll be able to get your copy of New Jersey Gun Law. And by the way, while you're on my website, you can also check out the latest link to the Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistols newsletter. They have featured yours truly and my dear colleague, Dan Schmutter, and Scott Bach on the cover, and they have hilariously called us Second Amendment heroes. And I'm assuming they're talking about like submarine sandwiches when they did that. But regardless, you can check out their newsletter and check out the Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs. You all should be a member of association. It is our state affiliate of the NRA, by tied in with the great fights that NRA, as we're talking about in Jensen. The NRA is like the new NRA, and they're out in the forefront doing what NRA has done brilliantly in the past. They're doing it again, and they're working hand in hand with the other great gun rights organizations in our country. And it's great to see the unity in these cases of us banding together to fight the good fight for what we all know and love and believe in, and that's the Second Amendment. Teddy, what do you have for us in press checks?
Well, everyone knows press checks are always free, and I thought I'd do something a little different, where we find a crazy article that I could not pass up. It was too funny, as this was coming right out of the New York Post. Adolf Hitler's $42 million Luger, the most valuable pistol in the world, at the center of a sensational court battle. Well, that's one hell of a grabber of a title.
And what do they say it's worth?
$42 million.
I wonder how they came up with that number.
Yep, so this involves a court battle between an appliance repairman and a cop in Argentina. Big surprise.
Argentina?
Yeah, I know. One of them said he was from the Boys of Brazil. No, I'm just joking.
Uh-huh. Well, it would make
But
sense it would end up in Argentina, wouldn't it?
yeah, the what is it? What was the one guy they caught in Argentina for uh,
There's been a number of Nazi
the
hunts
famous
that
one
took
that
place.
the famous one that the two Mossad agents scooped him up and got him drunk and put him on a plane, and then they ended up just hanging him.
Right.
It was but it was one of if you go through it, it's actually kind of crazy. So it began where if you caught the previous article of Adolf Hitler's former home transformed into police station
How do they know? Oh, that was his former home when he visited.
in
The,
Aus in,
they're not
in
sure.
no this is Australia. This is in
Austria, Austria, yeah,
Austria. This
Austrian.
is
Yeah,
in
that's his
Austria.
former home in Austria. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was from Austria
Yeah.
originally. Yeah.
So that was the whole Austrian authorities Wednesday opened police station building where Adolf Hitler was born amid years of controversies. This is a renovation to send a message that they will not appeal to extremist groups. Yes,
So you can
putting the
visit
police station.
Hitler's birthplace if you
Yes,
chose
if
to.
you ever get arrested. But to get to going off of that, where it was the weapon that described the holy grail of firearms was allegedly swiped during a SWAT-style raid by a masked officer at repairman Juan Pablo Rupel's home in rural Buenos Aires province in 2016. To go into more details, he inherited the haunting historic Ghost of the Third Reich from his German great uncle and former Hitler bodyguard Hans Ruppel, who is accused of stealing minor items such as plate, glasses, cutlery at the time of the raid.
So the claim is that this guy stole it from Hitler.
The claim is that he had committed some minor stealing in
Okay.
Argentina, but that was his pistol, so he was never charged with the allegations, mind you, but still, the gun that is a Luger Parabellum 45 caliber number 5 is only 5.
It's a 45 caliber Luger?
Yeah, yes, not only 5 in existence of the 1907 prototype forged by the late famed George Luger.
Yeah, George Luger.
Ar-
So Hitler's Luger was one of the rare 45 caliber Lugers.
Correct, and this was only for Hitler's provinces that would make them invaluable. The guns, there's 1979 firearm owner license in Argentina National Registry, so they register firearms. It was marked as Nazi Angel of Death, who lived for more than 2 years before fleeing the 1905.
So
pistol.
what happened to the gun now? It got seized by the police in this.
Correct.
How did that happen?
So from what it was said that now again, this is not Hans says it belonged to Hitler and he was taken he took it when he went to Argentina in 1948. And
Right.
So from that point where it was stolen after the quote unquote raid, it is now gone quote unquote missing.
Okay, who stole it in the raid? What, police raid?
One of the police officers.
So this is essentially a gun confiscation by police, and supposedly the most valuable handgun in the world is missing once the police got their hands on it,
The
right?
Buenos Aires Ministry of Security has demanding lawsuit for the compensation for the firearm. The court held by the agency liable for $15,000 plus interest, which also now
15,000 or 15 million?
15,000 just for the raid itself, for the actual unjustified raid. However, the lawsuit also adds in the 42 million, where 2 cops who had led the raid on the home due to the quote unquote trial prior. Rupert told the Post, the great uncles, that the Luger was taken from him.
Well,
Wow.
I'll tell you what, this is a common thing in New Jersey. I've had many gun confiscations by law enforcement in which it always seems that the most valuable firearm that the client possessed. I had a case where one was a rifle given by Theodore Roosevelt to a cabinet member that disappeared. I had another case where there was a trapdoor, Springfield trapdoor carbine that was documented to Custer's last stand and was an Indian capture gun that that was sent to the crusher supposedly and destroyed, you see. And I've had many different gun seizures that have taken place, and for some crazy reason it's that really valuable gun that ends up not being accounted for, and I don't know why I seem to see that pattern.
Yeah, and then just for clarification on the individual, Hans Ruppel, he was the SS Division Labestart. He was Hitler's personal bodyguard unit during the Second World War, to which he later fled to Argentina in 1945. This has been confirmed. So it is confirmed that this guy was a bodyguard, and he
To
registered
Hitler.
the pistol to
Hitler
and
registered it.
the gun under it, so it shows proof of documentation to the actual firearm that existed. So we know the gun existed, we know the guy has the credentials, so that's proved to that point. As to who swiped it, well, it's one of the members of the ministry, as what the suit is being led to. Again,
That's what they're alleging in their suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I've seen this done Jersey side where folks, what you want to do with your guns is make sure you have photos and you have recorded your information about your guns. Do not keep your data with the guns, because if they seize the guns, they're going to seize your books and data. And it's not unusual as well for them to take computers and such as well. So if you're going to have this and recordings of it and photos and all, keep it on a thumb drive hidden somewhere so you can access it, so you can prove and document the guns that you had and what they were. Because I've had the missing guns after a seizure more times than I can count. And it is common.
I also recall, wasn't one of these pistols also had like the early idea of a tactical light, like where if you held the pistol, it would.
Yeah, that's a very special Lugers they made too, that had early lighting attached to the gun. Yeah, that was a German invention, so to speak. They did have those way back. Yep. Yeah. So these are. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of valuable firearms out there, and a lot that have provenance that make them even more valuable. And I don't know if this truly is worth $42 million for a handgun, but it's definitely way up there as a very valuable historic piece. And it is something where you need to take steps, if you have any firearms at all, to make sure that you've documented so you can prove ownership.
Hopefully,
and if
there's
guns do get stolen, either by criminals or police or both, then you need to know and be able to have that information to try to seek recovery.
If anyone is related to anybody who served as a Soviet Union soldier who hit the Berlin and may or may not have picked up a Walther PPK next to a dead Hitler, call us.
Yeah, I think that gun is not accounted for, this so-called Hitler suicide gun, if, in fact, he did kill himself, which now there's speculation that the skull they thought was his was actually a woman's, and there's all kinds of who knows, and did he actually escape, and there's, we could find about as many theories about whether Hitler's alive as whether Elvis is alive and whether Bigfoot exists. I mean, this is one of the favorite topics of conspiracy theorists and what have you. But bottom line is, folks, you need to protect yourselves, protect your property. Don't be a go-foo. As a matter of fact, Teddy, what do you have this week for us for go-foos?
Well, this comes from Not the Bee, where influencer shoots self in leg while filming instructional video outside a gun shop.
Oh, an instructional video on how to shoot yourself in the leg?
How to properly rack the slide, and while doing so, when he was going through showing it off, he racked it and didn't. He broke every rule from treat every gun like it's loaded, know where you're pointing, keep your finger off the trigger, and bang, shot the artery in the leg and almost died. Always a good
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
And,
he came close to bleeding out
later.
because it hit the key artery there. And
Yeah,
that's because
that's-
he wanted to do an instructional video on how to properly handle a firearm, where he proceeded to utterly and completely improperly handle a firearm. It's similar to the law enforcement guy way back, lecturing to the students how he's the only one trained and safe enough to handle this gun properly. And right after he said that, he has an AD into
Yeah.
his foot, I believe it was.
He was
Yeah.
he was a DEA agent, if I recall.
Yeah,
But it was
right.
just one of
DEA
those that-
agent.
Yeah, and then he picks
So the
up the AR
GoFu-
right after.
This GoFu is a very practical and fundamental GoFu, folks. Don't forget the basic rules of gun safety. They're there for a reason. They're proven. Obey those rules. Don't take it for granted. Follow the gun safety rules. If you don't know guns and don't know gun safety, you need to take a gun safety course. Let this hit home. You don't want to be a GoFu, a gun owner F-up, because this is not only almost cost him, it almost cost him his life. And in Jersey, it would cost you your gun rights at a minimum, and under their accidental discharge law, because it was done without lawful purpose, you didn't intend to fire it, and it was in the 100 yards of a dwelling, which even a car constitutes as a dwelling, leave it to New Jersey to do that, you'd be looking at a felony charge for shooting yourself in the leg. So don't be a GoFu. Be extra conscientious. We want you to be safe, and you need to always be safe using the number one safety device ever invented, your brain. Keep that safety engaged at all times. This is Evan Knappen and Teddy Knappen reminding you that gun laws don't protect honest citizens from criminals. They protect criminals from honest citizens.
Gun Lawyer is a Counterthink media production. The music used in this broadcast was managed by Cosmo Music, New York, New York. Reach us by emailing evan@gun.lawyer. The information and opinions in this broadcast do not constitute legal advice. Consult a licensed attorney in your state.